No. Previously with Peter Kahn last week, week 4, you did talk about, developments in distance and online learning. And you were encouraged to think about those developments within your own contexts. Reflect on, if you're coming from different countries, what were these developments? What kind of things have changed over time? And it's just because it is important to address and understand that history bit of how things are, different in different contexts. So you had an introduction of, these developments in the UK, but also, more focused on the University of Manchester as well. So it is important as well to see whether within the institutions you are planning to work or are working currently, what kind of things have happened in the past, how they have incorporated online learning, what kind of developments have happened, especially after the pandemic, for instance. It's just to get an understanding of that context, or those contextual factors that will always influence your decision making. You also were encouraged to think about different questions. What kind of, if you're thinking about designing an online course, then think about costs, thinking about the teacher's role, the student's role, and are you going to be thinking about different tasks that involve individual and group work? What kind of networking activities students are going to be doing? One of the things we always have emphasized, it is that group work is important, especially in the development of an online community. And that idea has then moved, from that history bit in the past, when distance learning was just done through, the post, or sending packages by email, where pretty much students were just reading materials. And even when the internet came up and there was just only web 1 based materials where students just engaging with content, now we've moved away from that with the idea of creating an online community where students can also learn from one another and find themselves learning with other people with similar interests. The other thing that you also discussed with Peter, and you've discussed this with me, thinking before even creating an online course, first of all, what kind of course you want to create, and what would be the intended learning outcomes. So what do you want your students to be able to achieve by the end of the course? And those are more general learning outcomes, but you do need to develop specific learning outcomes depending on the different modules or units. Some people call these units that you want to incorporate in those in that online course. And that is primarily the first thing we need to think about pedagogically. And then we start thinking about technology. When we do things the other way around, we think about the technology and we put in the background the learning outcomes. That's where sometimes things could be really messy because it is hard to link back. Why am I using this tool? What is the purpose of using this tool? How does this tool help me achieve my learning outcomes? So we find ourselves reversing back and trying to understand the learning outcomes. So for you, to facilitate things, to make things easier, it is important to start from those learning outcomes. You will be encouraged to do that when you come together to think about an online course as well. Now, some of you have mentioned before to me by email that you have created previously an online course, and you could introduce us to those online courses that you have created and rationalize them with us, present them to us, in a way that we can understand what kind of purposes you were trying to achieve. And you can tell us, probably more critically, what kind of decisions you made and how the tools help you to achieve those learning outcomes. So that's another way as well in which you can, get into interaction in, with the content of the second part of the unit, which will be starting in week 8. So not far away. So therefore, one of the things then that Peter Kahn emphasized was that idea of, yes, we need to think about the pedagogy, the technology, how to implement what we want to implement, and also those institutional sometimes conditions, things that we are asked to think about, because institutionally you might be limited in what kind of tools the institution allows people to use, what kind of tools are licensed by the place in which you work. So sometimes we are limited, but those are the things that we need to plan and consider when designing online courses. So for this session, we will think about a bit further, think about further ideas and further our own understanding about those relationships between affordances and the type of teaching and learning that we want to achieve when we are engaging, in an online course, and as the tutors engaging other people in your online course. We will also look at some frameworks of pedagogy, just an initial introduction of what pedagogy is, pedagogical thinking, what kind of elements are out there that you can, identify, and then, go away and read more about them. And that's it. Yeah, we will have some group work as well. And reflection always. I think that bit of reflection, yes, reflecting on your own experiences. So now that you're knowing these from the perspective of the teacher, that exercise of reflecting about your past experiences from a different perspective, which could enhance your understanding of online learning. So 4 stages in the session. So it's all about teaching in online environments. We do look at an activity that we're going to do in VoiceThread. I sent a message as well via Canvas, asking people to have a look at the page 4.3, which is in the module 4 of week 5. So hopefully you had the chance. And I know from the recording that Peter Kahn uploaded in last week that he introduced VoiceThread as well. So hopefully you are more aware of how this tool works. It's very intuitive. So I'm not expecting people to spend ages trying to figure it out. But if you have any issues, do let me know. And, I will pop into your breakout rooms whenever we get to that point. So to get you thinking about the links between pedagogy and e-learning, online learning decisions, there are some materials in Canvas. So there's a book there. If you go to part 3 of that book introduces ideas about online course development. It is very interesting, this book, because, I created and helped to create this course with a colleague. So we spent quite a few hours working on this Canvas. And as, over time, things are developing. So it's like always an ongoing work between either one person or 2 people. But based on this book, there are so many other people involved when these online courses, especially those bigger institutions and those free courses that are put out there, it takes a lot of amount of people to create them. Learning technologists, people that that know how to do coding. I wouldn't know all those things because my main role at university is delivering content, not just not online course design per se, but I did have to get involved into thinking about an online course such as this one. So from making financial decisions, choosing the appropriate technology, evaluating this technology. Sometimes as tutors, we don't have the opportunity to spend time evaluating the technology that is being used. We do, as after, so long now been teaching this unit, we do ask for feedback. And a lot of you in your reflective assignment, you do provide kind of feedback as well of how these technologies afforded various types of, learnings. And we get a sense of, of that, whether these technologies that we're using were useful or not as well. So it is another way of getting feedback. But there's a chapter on, the editor in design. Definitely, these online courses don't have an editor in design because it was the same person. So one person juggling different roles it makes it a bit difficult. And that's why, when we start in part 2 of the assignment, I'm saying assignment when I mean the online course, in week 8, we ask people to work together rather than just individually, because the amount of time people spend creating, planning is, it is considerable. So that's another rationale there for you. There is also an online page that talks about 10 tips for decisions when you're developing an online course. There is a link to Moodle for you to explore. I'm sure a lot of you already know about Moodle. Links to LAMS, and I think there's also other links that I put. Just one second. To Articulate Rise, which is another tool that is now being, emphasized as a good tool and awarded, won several awards and so on and so forth. There's other tools for generative AI course builder, so yes, we know that the role of artificial intelligence is expanding vastly. So there are other softwares there that enable you to build a course from scratch in, the way they advertise it is, less than 5 minutes or 5 minutes. I don't know. I haven't tried that, but I'm tempted to try all these absorbs, I think it's called, this week, and I'll let you know. But the links are there for you to explore. See how how these different tools are used. And there's another link there to the best, online course creation software according to, the input from Google that I put there. And some of you already know other different types of learning environments as well that you have engaged in the past. You of course know Blackboard and Canvas. So the idea is that you start exploring the tools that are out there and see, what kind of things you would be interested in using in the future. I'm going to go back to the slides. There you go. So Collis and Moon, and they do talk about, the different terminology that is used when we talk about web-based learning environments. So people often refer to this as virtual learning environments, VLEs, or managed learning environments, MLE, or web-based course management systems, CMS, learning management systems, LMS. And there are other terminology, just as, a course in a box that Collis and Moonen, came with in early 2000s. As we mentioned, some of you are already, very, very well acquainted with different online environments. And some of those are on your screen. I don't know much about other online environments, but, a quick search on the web shows, these other online environments in different contexts. Does anyone know any of the ones that are on the screen? Any experience? I see you nodding. No? Well, it'd be interesting because I know you know, we're showing those that, you know, probably are more West, you know, in the Western world, but it is important that if you are coming from a different context, you do explore those online environments that you will be potentially using in those specific contexts. But yeah. Time for group work. We're going to work on this with group work. We're going to be thinking about this question on your screen. What kind of questions do you think teachers ask themselves to be able to select an appropriate online environment or virtual learning environment for their course unit, a course unit? There's a link to the Padlet which you can access via QR code, or there's a link. You do have access to these slides if you go to modules. The slides are, let me show you, whoops, to week 5, in section 4.6 of module 4. So if you go there, you will have access to the slide. I think I can open it as well for you and put it on the put it in the chat box. Let's see. There you go. So you go there, discuss, complete the first column, just this bit here. We will get back to this Padlet in the, you know, further down the line. And the idea is that you take about 5 minutes just to answer question 1, and then another 5 minutes to answer question 2. So address these 2 columns here, and you have 10 minutes to do that in groups. So I'll send you to a breakout room. I'll stop recording as well.